Good morning. Welcome to the sunroom. It is a very sunny day in the sunroom, as you could probably see on the video. We're starting to really get the effects of the actual sun here. I am recording a little bit later today, but the sun's coming out earlier, and we'll make adjustments with the lighting, but you can at least feel the ambiance of the sunroom if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify video. Thank you to everyone who has been watching. Thank you to all of the feedback I got on the episode with my wife, about her running the Big Sur Marathon. That was really great. A lot of people really enjoyed that. They enjoyed hearing her experience, all the hard work that goes into it, and just the unique aspect of running it in Big Sur and all of that. And so thank you to everyone who's very supportive with that. That was really good to hear. Today we're doing a throwback story, one of my favorite stories, something that I've told a million times in person, but probably haven't told in any detail and in a public way. It's never made its way into my stand-up yet. Maybe it will. I just have never found a way to make it into my stand-up, but it is a great story, and it goes all the way back to my days in college, which unfortunately was a long time ago. And so today we're going to be talking about when I was, quote-unquote, arrested in Arkansas. So we'll get into that story just now, but please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. And I would also love to see you out at a show sometime. I'll get into my dates here at the end of the episode. But you know what? Let's plug them at the beginning, because I think that's not a bad idea either. Next week, I'm in Panama City doing 2 shows in the Panama City area. I'm doing the Ryman at the end of May. And then big deals, I've got... I'm hosting for Brian Bates here at the Comedy Catch July 9th. July 10th in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, the Nashville area. I'm headlining Billy Goat Coffee Shop, which they do a comedy show there, I think maybe once a month or something. Really excited about that headlining gig. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing 45 minutes, material, all clean. Bring your friends, bring your family, maybe not your kids just because they won't get it. But other than that, clean show, really, really fun. And then huge deal, July 21st, Mic Drop Plano. I'm headlining Mic Drop Plano. Mic Drop is a comedy club franchise. There's several around the country. This is a huge deal to get a headlining gig here. It's a 300-seat room. I'm going to sell it out, okay? I'm selling out Mic Drop Plano. Do you hear me? Inspired by my wife. Setting a goal of the marathon, my goal, sell out Mic Drop Plano. So that's what I'm trying to do. Please help me do that. The ticket link is in the description, and I would love to see you guys there. If you do buy tickets, let me know. But today, we're going to talk about me getting arrested in Arkansas. So let's jump into that story right now. Okay, if there's 2 things I am afraid of, it's caves and cops. And this story has both. So this is 2012, spring of 2012, and I am in Northwest Arkansas. I'm in Fayetteville, Arkansas, for a date party. I went to the University of Oklahoma. I worked at a camp called Pine Cove, a Christian camp in Tyler, Texas, which is where I'm from. And I worked there in the summer of 2011. I also went there as a kid. My mom worked there. A lot of background here. But made some friends who went to Arkansas. There was these 4 girls who went to Arkansas that I was friends with, and some of my friends, a couple friends from LSU, a friend from Oklahoma, and others, we all kind of kept up and been very close. And so they were all in a sorority, and there was a date party, and they were like, let's invite our friends in for this. So 2 guys from LSU and me and a friend named Jordan from Oklahoma, we drove over to Arkansas, and we all had dates for this date party. And then they were super cool, the girls there, because they wanted to make it like a fun weekend to like show us Arkansas, show us Northwest Arkansas, what makes it so special. I had never been to Northwest Arkansas, and I did not visit the University of Arkansas when I was considering college. And honestly, I had so much fun this weekend, and it was so my vibe that I am like, if I had visited, I might have gone there. Now, I wasn't as into hiking and, whatever you want to call it, the crunchy granola type thing when I was in high school. But man, when I was in college and I was there, I was like, this is my vibe. These are my people. I loved it. Now, I loved my experience in Oklahoma. I met my wife. I made a lot of friends. I had so much fun. OU is much better at football. All of the things I like to, do on that side, Oklahoma was better at. And I loved Oklahoma, but man, Arkansas was so cool. And they showed us a great time. I mean, we had so much fun at that date party. They had set us up with a place to stay at this house called the Dojo, which was like where all these dudes were staying. I mean, I think it was a pretty crappy house, but like it was called the Dojo, and it was like perfect for a bunch of college kids. But after the day party Friday, then we had Saturday, and we had a ton of fun. We just did a bunch of stuff, explored Fayetteville, explored, the surrounding area. We did some hikes. We just really got a full picture of what it would be like to go to college in Arkansas and live in the Fayetteville area. And honestly, like I think that may be the weekend that really sparked what would eventually become me moving here to Chattanooga and living in this kind of environment, because I realized how much I love that kind of environment. And really, when my wife and I were thinking about moving, we kind of considered three areas. We considered Western North Carolina, we considered Bentonville, Fayetteville, all that Northwest Arkansas area, and then we considered Chattanooga, where we moved. And I strongly considered that Northwest Arkansas area because of this trip, because of the memories I had from this trip and how much I really loved that environment. And so it was a perfect weekend. Like Saturday evening, we climbed this hill and we watched the sunset, and we were trying to take pictures, and it was just an amazing thing. I remember sitting there as we're watching the sunset thinking like, what a perfect weekend, and what a perfect way to end a perfect weekend. Great getaway. I'm going to go back to college, on Sunday afternoon, and it's going to be amazing. Like just this weekend was perfect, and nothing could ruin it, kind of thing. And so we went to dinner, and the girls start talking about, well, let's do one more adventure. And they start throwing out ideas. And it's probably worth breaking down a little bit of the personalities here, but there was a girl, Caroline, who was very, sort of crunchy granola, very hilarious, awkward in ways, just did the weirdest stuff, but like just beloved type person. Just everyone loves being around her, but she was kind of wild. I mean, like she would do the sort of risky things for the adventure. And then she was kind of, the leader, but Lauren and Clarissa, and then there was Jenny Hayes, and they were all adventurous in different ways, but some a little bit more reticent to, be risky. And so they're throwing out different ideas, and some of the ideas were like, no, that's too risky, or no, that's too far. But they've all got these ideas that are a little risky. One of them was there's some ghost light that we got to drive and go see this ghost mysterious light, but it was like almost to Missouri. It was like, no, that's too far. And one was this other, and I think maybe some other kind of cave. And I was like, I'm not a cave person. And then there was this, and I mean, it was just like throwing out all these ideas, and there's a lot of debate about what we should do to end the night. And I'm like, I think we're good. Like, I think we just have dinner and then we just kind of go our separate way. I don't think we need another adventure. And I was a lot more risk averse, I think, back then than I am now. But they're debating back and forth, and they finally decide, you know what, Wonderland Caverns. That's what we're gonna do, Wonderland Caverns. And I was like, I said I don't like caves, and they're like, it's not a claustrophobic type cave, and they described it, and what piqued my interest in it was that it was this really cool historic thing. So the Wonderland Caverns is I think it's Bella Vista, Arkansas, near Fayetteville, but a little bit of a drive, maybe 45 minutes or an hour away. And the Wonderland Caverns is this humongous underground cave that was so big that it was used during Prohibition as a speakeasy. So it was a place where people like Al Capone and other kind of iconic figures of this era, they would go when they were in the Northwest Arkansas area, and they would go and they would party in this cave because it was harder for the cops to get there, to know that people were down there. And it was so big, and honestly, the acoustics were probably amazing, like for bands and stuff. So I was like, man, that does sound cool. And then in the Cold War era, it was used as a nuclear fallout shelter. So in case there was like a nuclear holocaust, basically, people could go down in these caves, and there were supplies down there and things that, maybe they'd be able to survive down in this cave because it was so big. And I was like, man, that does sound really cool. And they were like, yeah, one issue is that it's technically like we're not supposed to go there, but like they were like nobody takes care of it. Nobody watches over it. It's not like somebody's property, really. It's just kind of like something that over the years they've wanted to maybe turn it into a tourist attraction, but they never are able to. But they were like, people go down there all the time. Fraternities do like hazing stuff down there. People do like rituals down there. But overall, people just kind of go and explore it. And I was like, I don't know about the ritual thing, but okay. I'm in as long as you don't think there's an issue. And, looking back, I don't know if I should have trusted these girls because they were all pretty adventurous. But they were like, yeah, it's fine. And so we pack it up. We go and we get in a couple different cars and we start driving. And it's dark. It's late at night. And I just remember we're hurtling down the highway in the dark, and I think that car ride is one of the more, I don't know, seminal moments, poignant moments, something in my life where I remember that moment, because I remember as we're going, there starts to be a little bit of a realization of like, we're going to do something like pretty risky. And this drive is taking longer than we were thinking, and it's darker than we expected. And we don't actually know each other that well, the four of us. And there was this dynamic in the car as we're going towards this thing of, there was tension, there was nerves, there was something building. And I remember this, and the reason, I'm telling this part of the story because it is stuck with me for all these years, but someone, and I think it was me, sounds like something I would do, but it could have been someone else, said, hey, we should pick songs we should each pick a song that would be the song we want to hear as we sort of walk into heaven when we die. Like if we get to pick a song, what would that song be? And I think I came up with that idea because I thought it would be an interesting thing to hear what other people thought. And just kind of, I think you can get an insight maybe into what people think heaven is, but then also what kind of song would mean a lot to them in that context. And so I suggested it. I think I suggested it. But I always remember Caroline, who was driving. And Caroline was so odd that when she drove, she would drive with her left foot on the dashboard and her right foot pressing the pedals. I still don't know how she did it or why. But that image has always stuck with me of like, what in the world? There's a Chaco on the dashboard, and it's the driver's Chaco connected to her leg. But I remember she picked Punching in a Dream by The Naked and the Famous, which was like an iconic song at that time. It was, that, yeah, very 2010, 2011, 2012 kind of thing. But great, like we're like kind of dancing now. We got some energy going. And I picked Wake Up by Arcade Fire, which, at this point has become a little bit of a cliched song, and probably was at that point too, but it's still, I think that it's an amazing song. There's a reason it's cliched because it's so amazing. And I've always thought like that, that whole big chorus that does sound kind of like heavenly, right? And so, both of our songs are very upbeat. I don't remember what Jordan picked. I wish I could, but I just can't remember. But I always remember Jenny Hayes, who, she and her brother, by the way, her brother and the Hayes, they do the theme song for this podcast. They're a great band, and she's a great singer. So is he. They're both great musicians. They have a really, really cool band. And we knew that like she was going to be in some kind of band or something. That was always her thing. So I was very curious what she would pick because she was very cool. She was very hip. She was very introspective and maybe a little more shy than others. And so it was like, what is she gonna pick? Because everyone else has gotten very upbeat. We're like, yeah, it's fun. And I always remember she picked Mama's Eyes by Justin Townes Earl, which is a quieter song, a very introspective song, a very heartbreaking song, very simple musically, nothing like Wake Up or Bunching in a Dream, but deeply moving song. One of my favorites. I mean, I love that song. I love Justin Townes Earl, but I wouldn't have thought about that in this kind of context. And I remember her picking that and just being like, almost like it was almost like a gut punch of like, man, wow, like that is quite a. There's a lot there with that kind of choice, and I've always remembered that because I thought that was just so interesting and unique and beautiful, really. And so now, now we're driving in the dark and we're listening to this song, the four of us kind of in silence, and my mind is drifting to my parents and to my life. And I'm a junior in college. I don't know what my life is going to be in a year and a half. Where am I going to be? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? Who am I going to be dating? I hadn't even met my wife at this point. Who am I? What is my job going to be? There was just all of these thoughts begin to swirl in this car ride towards a very uncertain future, both very acutely in this cave and in life. And I just have always thought back to that moment as one of those great kind of head swirling moments in your life. And so eventually we get to where the caves are, and we pull up and there's a house, and basically there's a house on top of the cave, the staircase that goes down to the cave. And they're like, yeah, that's the cave. And I was like, what do you mean that's the cave? And they're like, yeah, it's inside this house. So that doesn't make any sense. But there's a car or two right outside the house. And we were like, oh no, we're not going in this cave with other people, because we've already talked about people do weird stuff down there. People go party, people do fraternity hazing, they do weird rituals. So we're like, we're not going to be down there with somebody else. So we drive back away. We go to some parking lot or something, and we chill for about 45 minutes. So now it's very late. It feels very, very late, and we're in pretty remote Northwest Arkansas. I don't have any idea where we are, honestly. And so the nerves they're really building up. So eventually I'm the whole time, like, I kind of hope that those people never leave and we can't go in. But eventually we see cars leave the area. So we go up there and we park our cars a little bit away from the caves, but obviously we didn't park them inconspicuously enough. And so we go in, and as we're walking up, there's a fence around the house, and someone has cut the fence and peeled it back. That's important. And so we go in the already cut fence, and then I believe there was a window that was open, and we go in the window. Again, we went in open things. And there's a staircase inside the house that just goes into the ground. Unbelievable. Very strange. So we go down the staircase, and it kind of winds around and opens into a massive, massive cave. Gigantic room. And it's like a windy sort of staircase, and you can see the main area further away. But as we turn the corner into the big space, we see all over the cave are these tea candles that someone who had been there before us had lit tea candles as if they were doing some kind of ritual. I don't know, satanic, fraternity, Masons, satanic. Something was happening before we were there. And then there were beer cans all over this cave. All over this cave are beer cans. People have gone in there, gotten drunk, trashed it over the years, over time. I don't know if there was just the people before us doing this ritual and getting drunk. I don't know what was going on. But that was like that really struck fear into all of us was like, what was happening down here before we got here? And so we keep going though. We push forward. The girls have been here before, we're not going to be scaredy cats, right? If the girls are the ones leading the way and they're not scared. So we get to the main area. The main area, and this is what is so cool about it, is it's a ballroom. Like there's a dance floor, there's booths, like from the 1920s, there's booths that have been built in there. I don't know if they were carved out of rock or if they were brought in. I'm not really sure. There's a bar. You can see the bar still intact, and you can see like the counter and then the shelf behind it. You can easily picture exactly what was happening here in the 1920s, right? It was hopping, and it would have been so cool, right? Especially if it was lit all by like candles and stuff like that. I mean, it's like a movie scene. Like they should film a movie down there. It was incredible. And so we start to relax because we're like, this is actually really cool. And then we go further into the back of the cave. And into the very back of the cave, there are these canisters that were used for if there was a nuclear attack or something and people were living in these caves, these canisters of water, and there was like instructions on how to use iodine tablets or something like that to purify the water so you could still have drinking water. And we're picking up these canisters and we're like, man, it'd be cool to have one of these in your dorm room. And I remember somebody said, it may have been me, it may have been somebody else, they said, yeah, would be cool. Although if we do get caught doing this and we're trying to steal something from the cave, that would look a lot worse. And we're like, good point, put it down. So we go back and we're hanging out. We've probably been in there about an hour, and we're like, hey, let's do one last thing. Let's take a group picture so we can remember this time. And I don't remember if it was a really sort of primitive iPhone or if somebody had a digital camera, but we had to we had to prop it up on kind of a ledge. And I think we had to use our flashlights to like light the scene because, iPhone flashlights are not good. Or iPhone, the flash on an iPhone camera. I don't even know if they had flashes at that time. So we are setting our flashlights up, pointing towards us, really lighting our group up. And we're trying to take this group selfie, and we're trying to get it to work, and we're struggling with it. So I remember we're doing this for a while, and so we finally get it, and we're all standing together. We're lit by these flashlights, and then we see way in the back towards the front of the cave, but way, way beyond us, we see lights reflecting, bouncing all off of the walls. And we were like, oh no, we're not alone. And we're all together. And normally, this is a cave, right? If we had seen other people, we maybe could have hid. We maybe could have turned our lights off and gone and hid. But we're in a situation where we're lighting ourselves. We're literally pointing to whoever is coming in. Here we are. We're all right here in one big sort of spotlight. And we don't know if this is the people that were doing the ritual coming back. We don't know if these are other people here to party. We don't know anything about them. All we know is that these lights are coming towards us specifically. And they're not saying anything. They're not saying anything to us. They're not announcing themselves. They're not wondering who we are. They walk all the way up to kind of the ledge above the ballroom. So we're down and they're up a little bit. And somebody said, just trying to do that thing. It's almost like, when a dog is running at you, a strange dog, and you don't know if it's hostile or not. So you kind of go, hey, buddy, hey, how's it going? Try to get them to wag their tail. That's what was happening here, where somebody in our group said, hey, how's it going? How you doing tonight? Something like that. And their response was, we're good, but you're not. Do you understand how terrifying that is for a disembodied figure in a cave in Northwest Arkansas to say that to you? We still don't know who these people are. All we know is that they said, we're good and you're not. One of the most heart-sinking moments of my entire life. To the point that we were, I think, incredibly relieved when we realized that they were cops. When they start walking down and we see oh, they're police officers, not hillbillies or Satanists. You know what I mean? That was the most relieving thing was like, well, at worst, we're getting arrested, not, sacrificed. So they kind of fan out, and I remember the one cop was very aggressive. He was obviously the leader, and he was very rude and very aggressive, and he was like, "These your beer cans?" And now look, they were not. We had not had anything to drink. Again, we met at a Christian camp. I think we were all of drinking age, but we were not drinking at all. We had not had anything to drink the entire weekend. I had never had anything to drink in my life at this point, even though I was 21. And so we were like, "No, sir." And he goes, "All right, come on, let's get out of here. We'll walk you out." And so they're walking us out. And I remember as we're going out, he's asking us other questions. And he's really trying to pin us. He's trying to get us to admit something, like some further crime. And so as we're going out, he goes, y'all open this window?" I'm like, "No, sir." He said, "You cut this fence?" "No, sir." And all of that was true. We didn't do any of that. But what he was trying to do was, if we had done any of that, we would have gone from misdemeanor trespassing to felony breaking and entering. So he was trying to get us on a felony breaking and entering, but the only way he would have been able to do it was just to get us to admit it, which is funny because if we had done it, that would have been a really bad idea for us to say yes or no. But he was just hoping we'd just be like, yeah. But we didn't, luckily, because we didn't do it. And in fact, we had evidence that we didn't do it because Jordan was a filmmaker and he was filming a lot of this journey, and he filmed us going in to the fence that had already been cut. So we get outside, and the very rude cop, he peels off two people. He peels off Caroline and Jordan for whatever reason. And he takes them over to a different car, and then the other cops, they're chilling with us. And there's about 4 or 5 of them, and then there's 6 of us, and I think there were 4 total cops. So I think there were 3 with us, and then there was 1 with Jordan and Caroline, and we're with the chill cops, and they're very nice. They really have no issues with us, and we don't know. They're like, yeah, they're kind of like, "Sorry guys." They're like, "Yeah, we understand. You guys seem chill." Like they're not upset. But the other guy was very aggressive. And so then I think the cops got together. They had a little conference, and the mean cop, he comes back. He goes, "I got good news and bad news." He's like, "The bad news is you're all under arrest for criminal trespassing." And we were like, "Whoa, under arrest?" We thought okay, we'll pay a ticket. This is not a big deal, right? We didn't do anything wrong. We weren't being aggressive. We didn't vandalize anything. So we it was almost like one of those someone faints moment. I think we all kind of banded together. I don't know if we grabbed each other, but it was just what do you mean under arrest? And he said, "The good news is there's 8 of you. We have 2 cop cars." So he's like, "We can't bring you to jail tonight." And we were like, "What do you mean bring us? You were going to bring us to jail? We were going to spend time in the clink for this?" It had never occurred to us the entire evening that would be where we ended up. We thought, worst case scenario, we get caught, we pay a fine, costs a bunch of money, it's embarrassing. We did not consider we could end up in a freaking Northwest Arkansas rural jail in the clink. I don't know what that accent was, but in the big house. I don't know if this is the big house. I don't know enough terms for jail, but we didn't even think that was possible. And he was like, "Yeah, we would take you, but we don't have enough cop cars, and we're not going to call in backup for this," basically. But he was he wanted to get us, and we did not understand. So we had to fill out all of the processing paperwork on the back of on their hood of their car, the back of their car. And the whole time, he's really rude, and the other cops are like, "Sorry about this." And we're like, "Well, if you're so sorry, tell your boy, this isn't a big deal. Why don't apologize to us? It doesn't mean anything that you're like, oh, sorry. Tell your boy, right, that this is not a big deal." And so they process us as if we've been arrested, and then they let us go. And so that was being arrested in Arkansas. The aftermath was pretty wild, though, because what had happened was apparently somebody had purchased this Wonderland Caverns and was really interested in maybe turning it into a tourist location or something like that. And they had employed the local, not employed, but they had basically, they were like, we're sick of the trespassing. And so they were really invested in stopping the trespassing that had been happening in this cave for decades and decades and decades. And so they had gotten the police to patrol more around the caves and arrest any kind of trespassers. Well, we didn't know this. We were operating under the assumption that it was like it had been for the last 50 years or more, where it was a place that people just went and like technically is trespassing, but nobody cared. We didn't know about this new, ownership. So we were able to use someone's family member as a lawyer, and he tried to work something out, and the owner of the cave was very upset. She believed that we had vandalized her cave, that we had brought in the beer bottles, that we had broken in, and that all of these things that we did not do, she fully believed that we did. And so she made it very, very difficult on us to kind of be able to get out of this. But eventually the proposal was from our lawyer, and this made the most sense for most of us because we didn't live in Arkansas, so we couldn't come back to Arkansas and do anything, right? We couldn't really come to a court date. I mean, if we needed to, we would have, but basically we just pled no contest. We're not admitting guilt, but we're not, saying we're innocent either. And essentially, as long as I didn't get arrested in Arkansas for like a year, even a speeding ticket, then I would be totally fine, and it would be off my record, and that's what happened. I paid the lawyer, paid some kind of fees, some kind of fine or whatever, and then it was not a big deal. But the funniest part of this is one of our friends from LSU. He was like, I'm not paying the lawyer fees. He's like, I've looked this up. The fine, if I just admit guilt, is a lot less than the lawyer fees. And the lawyer fees we may have ended up paying $300 or $400 total, but he was like, the fine is like $150 or something. He's like, I'll drive up. I'll have another fun weekend in Arkansas, and I'll have a court date, and I'll admit guilt. I'll tell him what happened, and I'll just pay this, $150 minimum fine. And I'm smarter than you guys, basically. And we were like, oh, okay. So he and his buddy drove up from LSU, and the buddy had taken the plea deal or whatever it is, but he his name is Taylor. He goes, and this is the story I've heard. I'm telling the story from how he told it and from my memory. But he apparently goes up, and the judge goes, "Okay, you're being charged with criminal trespassing." He was like, "This carries a maximum fine of like $2,000 and up to 30 days in prison." And the story goes that Taylor realizes for the first time, like, oh, I could end up in prison. And he like looks back at his friend in the crowd, and his friend's like dying laughing, like, oh my gosh, like, what have you done? And so the judge asks Taylor to tell him what happened. And so Taylor says, we went to Wonderland Caverns. We were just exploring. He kind of explains it. And apparently the judge goes, oh, I went to the University of Arkansas. I was in a fraternity. We did parties down there. Like, he's like, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. That's not he's like, this isn't a big deal. And he gave him the minimum fine. And so Taylor ended up being the smartest, but he also got the biggest scare of all of us. But that shows you the level of knowledge of this place, that the judge was like, dude, I've been there. What are you like? Why are we here? Right? This is not a big deal. But something had changed very recently. The ownership had changed very recently, and it became a big deal. And so we were not in the wrong to think that this would not have been a big deal. But we just didn't know the recent change. But yeah, that moment, that weekend kind of bonded all of us for a long time. Because we had to be in touch for a really long time. We started a little private Facebook group called the Wonderland Cavern Outlaws, which Jenny Hayes pointed out a couple of years ago. Every once in a while, like we'll come in there and be like, "You guys remember this?" She was like, "This would be an incredible band name." You can't take it. If you heard this and you want to start your band, you can't take it because that's what I'm gonna. One day I'm gonna learn an instrument, and that's the band I'm gonna start is the Wonderland Cavern Outlaws. You can't take that. But yeah, it's kind of bonded us for life. I mean, when I moved to Chattanooga, Jenny Hayes and her brother were playing a concert here in Chattanooga, like right after we moved, and I was like, I got to go see him, and that was one of the first things that came up. I hadn't seen her in 10 years or more, maybe even since this moment. I'm not really sure. And that was like, that came up. We're like, man, remember this? Like, it's just such a unique experience. When we got back to Pine Cove that summer, those of us who were still working at Pine Cove, we were like a unique group. People are like, hey, it's the Criminals. You know what I mean? Like, this is a Christian camp, and 8 of us had been arrested together in the the sort of off season of camp. But because it was such a minor thing and it was really a innocent thing, there was no punishment related to that. I will say my parents weren't happy about it, but now we laugh about it, which is that's the point of every good story and every good adventure is even when it's tough in the moment, you can laugh about it later. So that is me getting quote unquote arrested in Arkansas. Just a fun time. That was such a great time. I haven't seen a lot of those people in a long time, and maybe I'll see you on the road. If I'm doing a comedy show in your area, please come out because I want to relive this moment over and over again. It was probably the most memorable weekend of my entire time in college. And that is Sunroom Story Time, story number 9. Okay, for Wiki Wonder, normally the point of Wiki Wonder is what I randomly was reading about this week, but we're going to keep it on theme, and I'm just going to read you from the Wikipedia page of Wonderland Cave. I think I've called it Wonderland Cavern sometimes. I think sometimes it is called that. But Wonderland Cave is the largest cave in northwest Arkansas. It's on Dartmoor Road in Bella Vista, if you ever want to go and get arrested. And the published report of the cave dates back to 1868. It was bought in 1917 and was developed by a guy in 1929, opened as a nightclub in 1930. So I've been saying the 1920s, but 1930 was technically what it was. It's a cavernous space located 300 feet into the cave, was a cavernous space hosting a stage for musicians, a bar, and wood/stone booths. The Arkansas State General Assembly met in there in 1931. Then there was a winery in the cave, and it's also been used historically with the aging of locally produced wine. And, like we said, the Arkansas General Assembly. It stopped operating as a nightclub in 1960. So it was actually open into non-prohibition times, which I think I did not realize. And it was a bomb shelter at the peak of the Cold War. It was opened as a rock and roll nightclub in 1988, closed in 1995. It's changed hands several times since 1995. And then actually, most recently was bought in 2019 by the Walton Enterprise, aka Walmart, which dominates all of Northwest Arkansas. That's fascinating. So it's part of the National Register of Historic Places. It is incredible. There's actually the website that kind of gives you a lot more details related to that than the Wikipedia page, but this is Wiki Wonder. So that is Wiki Wonder about what is so special about Wonderland Cave. And that also confirms that I didn't make any of that up. So again, please comment, like, share, all of these things. You have a funny story of doing something similar. Have you been to Wonderland Cave? Let me know. Are you one of the 7 people who was part of this with me, and are you upset that I told the story? We'll see. But yeah, please come see me at my shows. Panama City, 2 days next week. The Ryman, May 30th. July 9th at the Comedy Catch. I'm hosting for Brian Bates of the Nate Land / Public Figures podcast, who's become a friend of mine. And then July 10th, Mount Juliet, Tennessee, which is the Nashville area, Billy Goat Coffee. I'm headlining, so you'll get to see me do 45 minutes of comedy. I'm really excited about that. Grateful for that opportunity because I have a big headlining show July 21st, Mic Drop Plano, big time club there. Really excited about that. Big opportunity for me. I want to pack that place out. I want to sell it out, hopefully. So anything you can do to help me in that regard, please let me know. If you're part of an organization like your church or something like that, you want to do like a date night giveaway or something like that, I can make some of that work out. So please reach out if you this rings a bell of your church or some organization that of people that would want to come see a comedy show, and it is a clean comedy show, so you can give it out to your church or your school group or something like that and not worry about some deeply offensive thing they're going to hear. So please let me know. Definitely want to make that happen and make that an amazing night. But thank you for joining me on Sunroom Storytime.